Well, the haters gonna hate, 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 and the fakers gonna fake, 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 baby. I'm just gonna making luck, a Dominion podcast. Welcome to Making Luck, a really bad high five podcast.
Are you gonna cut out high five when you edit?
I don't know. Leave a comment in the comment section. Sorry this episode's a day late. Labor Day was this week, and I think that was not on my radar. No. I didn't think hey, we should do something different with the podcast.
Yeah,
and so here we are.
My bad.
I mean, and you know what? Sorry, but it's not like we're getting paid for this.
Yeah, we were getting paid on Labor Day though. If you have vacation time.
Actually, I didn't have vacation, but they gave me holiday.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
not holiday. Not vacation,
8 hours.
Holiday. Yeah.
8 hours of holiday pay for that, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's always nice.
It was really great to not have to go into work. I played some Spirit Island over there.
Nice.
I reached a new low.
Oh, really?
I did a 2-player game where I controlled both of them.
Yeah? How did that go?
It was exciting.
Did you win?
I did, and it was looking hairy for a bit.
Nice.
But Fire Guy just isn't going to work by himself.
No, I mean, that seems weird, because
you just blight. The whole island is immediately on fire, so...
I don't know, could you make that work by himself? Because...
I've tried. I did yesterday. I died immediately and convincingly.
Could you just, blight things and then never touch that place again?
I don't think that works.
Probably not.
Leave a comment in the comments section.
A Spirit Island podcast. Yeah, so... we are ready to get back into the podcast. Sorry, we took a day off. But this one is going to be about Goons.
Yeah. Everybody's favorite card is Goons.
Yeah. This is one that we've had on our episode list for a little while, so we wanted to go ahead and talk about that card.
Yeah. Yeah. We actually had a kingdom from last episode.
Yeah.
That had Goons in it.
Right.
And well, we did play a few games, but we played them with physical cards.
Yes.
We didn't play any online, partially because the online client is insufferable right now, and also because, we'll talk about it later. I'm going to go ahead and read these cards. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
So this kingdom had Raise, Familiar, Oracle, Village, Diplomat, Counting House, Distant Lands, Outpost, Goons, Grand Market, and there's Wedding and Conquest. Once again, for our audio-only listeners, Raise, Familiar, Oracle, Village, Diplomat, Counting House, Distant Lands, Outpost, Goons, Grand Marquette, and there's Wedding and Conquest.
This was something.
Yeah, so this came from the episode about dealing with luck, right?
Yeah.
And, man, we had to deal with a lot of luck here, didn't we?
Yeah, so to that point, there were quite a few games where one of us resigned really early because of how the variance worked out in terms of Familiar and Raise being the only trashing. And it's kind of ironic that we talked about this after a podcast on dealing with luck, but it got to the point where we actually started the game 3 turns in, where we had both picked up a Familiar and trashed an estate with Raise. Yeah. So you open Potion Raise. Yeah?
Yeah.
And the thing is that it kept happening to us that one of us would miss Familiar. We'd draw our potion with only 2, or we would have to trash coppers with Raise instead of an estate, which also pretty much guarantees that you're going to get your potion with only 2. And so if that happens to you, you're kind of out. You're kind of going to lose that game. And don't get me wrong, we played that out for the most part a few times, but it got to the point where we wanted to answer some other questions about the kingdom, and we couldn't because the Raise Familiar thing wasn't working out for one of us. So.
Yeah. So then we tried just making sure we hit Familiar every time. So we would start the game after 4 turns.
Yeah.
We would open Potion Raise and then get a Familiar and then raise an estate and get another Raise. That's normally what happened. There's some weird cases where, like, oh, I hit 3 potion on turn 3, and I have 4 on turn 4, and I would get a diplomat there. But that's really rare.
Normally, your first 3 buys are your first like 4 buys are raise, potion, raise, familiar.
Yeah. So then we would just start the game at turn 5.
Yeah,
and see where it went. And we thought that this would decrease the effect of luck and give us some more insight into what else was going on. Turns out the game was then won and lost by whose familiars missed more shuffles, but then also who hit 6 first to get their first goons.
Yeah, getting the first goons is something we're going to talk about later on in the episode and whether or not that's important and why, but suffice it to say it was pretty important here because it really made it hard for your opponent to get a goons on time. And the thing is that in this board, familiars make curses run, and the raises probably run out too. And goons is really good at emptying piles, so that's like 2 piles we've already addressed are pretty much gone, so it's really easy for whoever gets a lead on either junking or points with goons to just end the game on their terms.
Yeah, so it turns out that most of this game is decided by luck if you're both going for the same thing.
Well, that's most things, though. If you both do the same thing, and you both do it about as well, it's going to come down to luck.
Namaste. Yeah. But, like, I mean, I tried playing against the bot where, like, oh, well, maybe you don't go for familiar, or maybe you do something else with the distant lands or the grand market, but, like, I don't know, all that seemed really bad.
Yeah, I don't, distant lands didn't play here.
I mean, it wasn't
There's no time.
good. Yeah. So Outpost was pretty decent.
Oh, okay,
yeah. You're going to hit 5, and, like, definitely your first 5 is an Outpost. It's pretty solid at every point in the game.
Yeah, even if it's 6, if you don't have an Outpost yet, you might think about Outpost over Goons. It's close.
I mean, you'd think about it, but I think the Goons is important enough.
Yeah. And
it did happen in one game, though. Like, you had, like, 3 silvers by that point because you were tired of not hitting 5 or 6 ever.
Yeah, right.
And you had 6 at the top of a shuffle, and I managed to convince you that you know, you can get a Goons now, and you could still hit 5. And
yeah, but then, like, I think that's actually why I lost that game.
Oh, I think the game was already over by that point.
Oh, yeah, Curses had split, like, 7-3 or something.
Yeah, it was pretty bad for you, but...
Yeah, so... Familiar can do that. Familiar is a high variance card. There's no getting around that. But the Goons versus Outpost, which one you get first, is pretty close. And if you have the choice, you probably get the Goons. But man, the Outpost was real good.
It was a solid card. You get it early on. It just helps you play your familiars more.
Well, and also the other thing is that Diplomat's super good here, and we got a bunch of Diplomats as soon as, basically, like, when the curses were out, we start, like, piling in on Diplomats. You probably get 1 or 2 before that happens, but...
So, like, I would get 1 or 2 familiars, and after that, like, I'm raising that potion, and I'm just trying to hit... I'm going to put silvers on 3, maybe, and, like, Diplomats on 4, get a single outpost, and then Diplomats... for 5, and then, like, just trying to hit 6, right? So, like, Diplomat was really important, especially because it was an outpost in the deck, and Diplomat's a really good card.
Well, it's also, like, your Diplomats are getting to react to opponents' familiars, which they're going to be playing even after.
Yeah.
You know.
Super great here.
Yeah, so I do want to point out, Adam said silver on 3, Diplomat on 4, and then obviously you buy stuff on 5 and 6, depending on what you need. The silver on 3 you're kind of sad about here, I'd say. Like,
you really don't want more than 2.
Yeah, if you hit 3 a whole bunch, you're real sad on this board.
I'd consider getting additional raises past that. Or, like, maybe a village, but raise is a really good card.
I don't think the village is necessary at all.
If you are uncontested, if your opponent tries to play money, I think the village is very relevant.
Okay.
You're going to need...
I think you're winning that game either way, though.
True, but the village makes the deck a lot better. I know this because I played against Lord Rattington.
Right. Yeah, so actually, I think that if you hit 3 and there's a raise to be gained, and you don't want a silver, I think you take the raise.
Sure.
I like that better than the village for the most part.
Definitely better than nothing.
Yeah.
It has a lot of upside. Like, if you're not hitting 6, then you've got a bunch of junk, and so you want to trash it, and Raze does that.
Yeah, so there were some pretty defined phases of this game. Phase 1 is where you and your opponent are both trying to get control of your decks with Raze and junk your opponent with Familiar. And then at Phase 2, you are picking up Silvers and Diplomats to hit Goons. And then Phase 3 is when you have the Goons and you just try to win the game with that. So that's...
That last phase, can we call it Phase 55?
We can call it Phase 55,
Sweet.
but I think it is... The reason I bring that up is that that's kind of the beginning and the end of the strategy talk that I have for this kingdom.
Yep.
Because I think you just play to those phases and do it the best you can. And
You just got to get to Phase 55.
yeah, and not like... there's skill on this board to be exhibited, for sure. There are decisions you can make. There are good ones and bad ones, but there's also a lot of variance that...
Yeah, you got to make your own shuffle luck.
So, all in all, it was still a pretty fun game of Dominion. So
You don't believe that.
hey, I'm trying, man.
Okay.
So yeah.
Yeah, that's all I have to say about this.
It also has a little bit to do with why we're doing Goons, because obviously, like, Goons was on the brain after this kingdom.
Yeah, defo.
I usually have Goons on the brain.
Yeah. Hashtag Goons on the brain.
Hashtag Goons on the brain.
Yeah, so Goons, it's from the Prosperity expansion.
Yeah.
And it's a $6 action, also an attack. It gives you $2 in a buy, and it makes each other player discard down to 3 cards in hand. And then it also says, while this is in play, when you buy a card, +1 VP token.
So, I don't usually lead anything. If you read articles that I write, or podcasts that I record, or videos, or whatever, I usually...
No one that listens to your podcast is going to listen to this, Jake.
Sorry. But if you consume any of the content I make about Dominion cards, you'll know that I really am hesitant to start out, or at any point, call a card good, or bad, or strong,
Yeah,
because
like, what does that mean?
Right. Goons is really strong. Like,
it's a
pretty
really
much,
good card.
Yeah, and like, I'm comfortable saying it about Goons where I'm not with other cards, because it's true, like, pretty much all the time. Like, there's pretty much no game where it's going to be there and it's not going to be really good.
Yeah, it's. I would say it's normally a centralizing force on any board that has it. Like, I think out of about 5,000 games I've played, I've ignored Goons once and thought that maybe that wasn't a clear mistake. So, like, this is back in the ISO days, and it was, like, a board of 10 terminals, and, like, some of them were Chancellor and stuff, because, this was the old times, but it had Goons and Library. And I was like, oh, Library counters Goons, I'm playing Library Big Money. And I played Library Big Money, and I won, and my opponent was really salty. It's like, you didn't get any Goons, and you won.
Wow.
Yeah. But, like,
that sounds salty. Yeah.
I mean, I got 5 provinces, so I won the game, and I had a lot of libraries. I guess it was okay. I mean, maybe I should have gotten a Goons in there, too. I don't know.
It's hard to say, coming back to an individual game, like, whether you won the game because what you did was best, or you won the game for some other reason. Maybe your opponent played a strategy badly, or maybe it was best. But the thing is, that when you
definitely need to have something to whine about whenever you lose, though.
Yeah, and you gotta have that prepared before the game starts. Because you don't want to be reaching when it happens.
Okay, I feel like once you get into the end game,
yeah, it's time to start whining.
You're just thinking about what you're gonna whine about.
Right. So, when you see Goons on a kingdom, you do understand that it's probably the most important card on that kingdom for one reason or another.
Well, it's a very important card.
Right. That's what Adam means when he says centralizing. When Goons is out, it's kind of all about Goons.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's interesting, though, because there's a lot of different types of games of Dominion possible. And, I mean, we're saying that Goons is important in all of them, but the reason it's important in different types of games varies on which aspect of the card becomes very relevant.
Yes, it is extremely interactive as a card. Let's think about it for a second. It's a terminal action that doesn't draw any cards, so it takes up a deck slot, and it costs 6, and it's a card that you get more value out of by playing a lot of, and it has a discard attack on it, so it's probably going to happen to you. So a deck that is playing well to Goons is a deck that has a bunch of actions to play them and is drawing them consistently, and is able to hit 6 to get the Goons, and is able to recover from a reduced hand size by being hit by Goons. Basically, Goons is asking you to support your deck in every possible way imaginable. A Goons board is asking you to do all things Dominion.
I've never really looked at it that way. I've just called it interactive, but like...
Yeah, that's a shorter way to put it.
All things Dominion.
Yeah.
Should we rename the podcast?
Making luck. All things Dominion.
No, welcome to All Things Dominion.
Oh, okay.
A Dominion podcast.
Yeah. I like the sound of that.
I don't know. We'll need to work on it.
Yeah, alright.
But yeah, like, it does a lot of things. Like, Goons gives you a buy, it attacks, it gives you VP tokens. So, like, those last two things are really, really good, and at least one of those things is going to be good in just about any game that you can possibly play with Goons. It does these 3 very diverse things, and at least one of them is going to be really good somewhere, and potentially a combination.
Yeah, so Goons is a card that falls into the category that I call endgame payload. And I mean something specific when I say that. I mean that it's a card that can function as your main means of winning the game. So Goons is in that category with occasionally things like Bridge and Bridge Troll or Horn of Plenty, or if you're just trying to buy provinces, I'd call your endgame payload gold or whatever, but that's not important. The
self-synergy.
Right. I mean, the important thing is that the Goons is the card that is going to be directly winning to the game, and these other cards that are in the kingdom, their role is going to be to support the Goons in some way.
Sure. So when I think about these different situations, these different types of games that you can have, I like to divide them in terms of how many Goons can I play in a turn.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
So, like, playing a Goons is really good.
Yeah.
But playing 10 Goons, like, you just win the game if you play 10 Goons.
Well,
right?
Yes. I mean, yeah. Obviously, that's an extreme example for the purpose of illustrating.
I mean, I've done it many times.
Well, that should never happen.
Yeah, it was in the GoCo days, the prosperity campaigns. You play a 3-player game against 2 bots, and they don't ever get Goons. And City and Goons are in, like, all of those games.
Nice.
So, like, you could just win the game, however... But you could also get all 10 Goons into play and score over 1,000 points each time. Because there's also, like, Grand Market and stuff. You get the cities turned all the way on. You get, like, 40 buys. There's 10 Goons in play. And there's colonies in every game.
Oh, sick.
So, like, you're just, like, clicking copper.
Yeah, you're just, like, you're not even looking at what you're clicking on. You're just pounding your fists on the keyboard, getting points.
That's actually...
Yeah.
That invokes some imagery that is very pleasing to me.
Yeah. So it's interesting from a design perspective. I was writing in my outline, and Adam and Wandering Winder were both looking over it, and one of my notes was that, by the way, Goons is one of my favorite cards. I think it's a really good card from a design perspective. I like it quite a bit because it's extremely powerful, and yet... it's also extremely variable. It's not powerful in the same way every time. It creates a different experience. And Wandering Winder said, actually, I dislike this card quite a bit. He doesn't like it at all. And we talked about that. And what it comes down to a little bit is that he likes to have more of a puzzle in terms of reading the kingdom to figure out what's good. And he really likes the kingdom to be a puzzle that he can wander his winders into. And Goons doesn't really give you that. Goons is very upfront. He likes things like, Native Village and Stonemason and stuff where he can figure out the best way to use them. Whereas Goons is very much open and upfront with you about what it wants to do.
I'm going to beat the crap out of you.
Yeah, it's like you know how to play Goons. You just get a bunch of Goons in play and then you win the game. Whereas the interesting, tactical, engaging part of it is how you build that deck, how you build it faster than your opponent or a little bit better. What are your priorities? If maybe there's junking involved too, do you go for that first? So a lot of the play is less about kingdom reading and more about making the best decisions on your turn.
Yeah, and then I said that the fact that Goons can be that way, can be so overpowered, and it's still okay for the game is kind of a testament to the good overall design of Dominion.
Sure.
It's like, at least I mean, yeah, Goons is definitely really good, but the way you play those Goons is going to be different every game, and so it doesn't feel exactly the same every time.
Yeah.
So you can have these really powerful cards. As long as they're interactive, it's still, the game is fun. But that's my personal opinion.
No, and I'm kind of with you on that. Like, I think that Goons is okay for the same reason that Donate is okay. Like, they're both really powerful cards, but the thing that they do is very different every game because of how they need to interact with the rest of the kingdom to support themselves.
Yeah.
Donate is the ultimate support piece. Goons is the ultimate piece to be supported.
Sure. That sounds reasonable. So, let's talk about playing Goons.
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's say you can only do it once on a turn.
Yeah, so that kind of falls into those two categories, and you have multiple categories, but there's
55 categories.
There's two overarching categories of Goons games, like one where you can only play one Goons every turn, and one where you can play multiple.
Sure.
And then the ones where you can only play one.
Yeah, there's no village.
You want to do that?
Yeah.
You want to play that Goons?
Yeah, you want to play the crap out of that Goons. So I think there's two situations where you can only play one Goons per turn. The first one is a money-focused game. So, in this game, both the attack and also the VP tokens have, decent value. Yeah. So I want to play Goons, right? And I'm probably going to need to buy multiple Goons, put multiple Goons in my deck in order to play a Goons on most turns.
Yeah, the focus on a board where there's no village, or there's maybe technically a village, but no realistic way to play multiple Goons, the focus is on getting it so that you play that Goons as often as possible, as many times as possible. You don't want to go a turn without playing a Goons if you can help it. So sometimes that means buying more Goons than you think you'll be able to play, and colliding them in that case is okay. Like, it doesn't hurt you as much as not playing one.
I mean, yeah, you would have rather it been a gold, but, it's worth it because having slightly less effective turns, but still you played a Goons is really good because, you're still scoring points.
Yeah, right.
So, I would say, Goons is obviously really important there, and I think it revolves around mostly the attack and also the VP tokens.
Yeah, I'd say those are both equally important in that case, because if there's no way to play more than one Goons in a turn, that implies to me that the support pieces for the deck, the control pieces, are pretty weak. So the discard attack probably hurts that a lot because there's not a great way to recover from it.
Mm-hmm. There's the other situation where you can still draw a lot, but there's still no village, so only one Goons.
Yeah.
So now you're thinking I get one terminal per turn, and it can be basically whatever I want, and I put that in my deck. And Goons is a solid choice for that deck.
Oh, totally.
Yeah, it's a little less about the VP here and a lot more about the attack and the buy.
But they're both case. Really... But the VP are not to be discounted either.
VP tokens are great, even if you only get, 2 of them. That's amazing.
Right, and you'll get more than 2 of them if you're playing your Goons every turn.
You'll get, 55 of them.
The thing is that the Goons is still probably the best terminal in the game you could be playing. Of course there are exceptions, yes, but...
It's up there, though.
But it's the best in the most situations. It's very likely that if you can only play one terminal every turn, the best one is probably the Goons.
Yeah, it's real good for that.
And, the thing is that if you play the Goons as much as you can, and you really prioritize doing that, even if you can only play one a turn, you're probably going to get at least 6 points to it from it. In my experience, it's 8 to 12 that you get in those games from the Goons points, and that's more than a province. And the reason that metric is important to me is because, even if another terminal helps me hit province faster, the Goons gets me more points than the province I'm not getting faster. Does that make sense outside of my head?
Sure.
But
it makes sense if the provinces don't run out.
Well, sure, right. But anyway.
So yeah, if you can only play one Goons per turn, Goons is pretty good.
Yeah.
So what if you can play more than one Goons in a turn?
Yeah, if you can play more than one Goons in a turn, the card goes from a solid 8 to a 25,000 out of 10.
Wow, that's a big number, Jake.
Yeah.
Nice number.
Yeah, thank you.
So I think there's actually 2 kind of subcategories here.
Yeah.
So you can say, there's a village, I can play as many Goons as I want, but also you can sometimes be limited on draw, Or sometimes your deck control resources can be limited enough where, maybe my village isn't that reliable. So I'm thinking like a golem or a herald with support that isn't that fantastic. One that's just not going to work a lot of the time.
Or you've got a decent village, but you can't thin.
Yeah.
Or at all. And so you can put all the goons and villages in your deck, but there's still a really good chance that it's not going to work out.
Yeah, like it's really junky, and it's hard to line up your business, and your deck is very inconsistent.
Yeah.
And so even on its best turns where good things happen, you're still looking at 2, maybe 3 goons on a turn. Or like maybe your village is Crossroads or something, and you're limited. Yeah.
Even though you're not... It's great at first, but then you're limited on the total value of your turn.
Yeah. So I think a lot of these games are decided often by who gets the most of those multi-goons turns.
Yeah, and so we talked about the single goons game a minute ago being really about consistency, about playing that goons consistently and being able to just do that as early and often as possible. To contrast that, multi-goons games are a little bit less about consistency and a little more about building your deck to have like this big potential. And to, even if you don't consistently play a bunch of goons, to have 1 or 2 of those turns where you play enough goons to win the game, or at least having more multi-goons turns than your opponents can. Either way, the deciding factor is who plays more goons throughout the game, but it's just kind of how you value things.
Sure, and I think part of the reason that is the case is because if you're not going to get a multi-goons turn, chances are you're probably going to play like a goons.
Yeah.
And, you play a goons and you've attacked your opponent. Like,
right.
You get a lot of value on that very first goons you play just because you're going to, whack your opponent's knees with a crowbar or something.
Yeah.
Just that first time.
Right.
I mean, after they don't have any knees anymore, you can whack them a bunch and it doesn't matter. I'm trying to really put some theme into this because, as we've often said,
if you ignore theme,
you're just going to lose games at Dominion.
Right. You're not going to have any knees. So,
also.
Right.
So like, it's fine to build this deck that's inconsistent if it has the potential to have these good turns. I mean, you can look at just the minimum number of points you can get on a turn where I play a goons. I can get 2 VP tokens.
Yeah.
But 2 goons, I get 6 VP tokens. 3 goons, I get 12 VP tokens. 12 is really a lot.
And like
points.
Those are just like assuming you spent all your buys on copper, right?
Yeah, like obviously
that's the minimum VP tokens that you're getting versus maybe buying VP or making your deck better in the meantime.
Right. I mean, these are the maximum potential. And so if 3 goons is the most you can reasonably expect, then yeah, you definitely want to cash in. Because 12 points is amazing. Like, putting 3 coppers in your deck is better than putting a province in your deck and you're getting twice as many points,
Right.
So do that.
Yeah. So, I mean, the takeaway from the way that the arithmetic scales for goons is that you get kind of multiplicative value because you get an extra buy and they're all worth 1 more. All your gains are worth 1 more point. So the more goons that you can get in play, like 1 more goons is a lot more value. Like, there's a huge difference between having 3 goons in play versus having 4 goons in play.
Yeah.
And that's true all the way down the line.
Yeah. It gets real big.
Yeah.
Do you want to get Cray?
Totally.
Yeah.
I'm already a little...
Yeah, we're getting a little antsy, ready to just pop off.
I'm twitching.
Oh, yeah? You have a Twitch channel?
Oh, no, I don't have a Twitch channel, but maybe I'll start one now.
Oh, okay, sweet. Tune in to Jake's Twitch channel.
When he makes one.
When he makes one.
Yeah.
Here on Making Luck, a twitching podcast. Anyway, so let's say you can play a lot of goons on a turn.
Yeah, right. So, like, you're not... The deck control is there in every aspect. We've all played those games where it's crazy. You've got, like, Lost City and lots of trashing and stuff like that. And the world is your oyster.
You're playing against 2 bots in an all-prosperity game.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah. You just know.
Yeah, so, like, obviously in that point, like, Goons is pretty amazing.
It's so good. And I think the reason it's so incredibly good in this case is because of the VP tokens.
Well, yeah.
Like, if I split the goons evenly, if I only get 5 goons in play, that's like 30 VP tokens minimum that I'm getting if I just buy coppers. And obviously you're going to be doing a lot better than that because you have a deck that can play 5 goons per turn.
Yeah, so one thing to really take here is that the consistency and the potential to play multiple goons in a turn shifts the focus of goons away from the attack and towards the VP tokens, and the ability to play fewer of them per turn shifts the focus toward the attack, and the VP tokens are still there, but they're not while you're playing it.
Right. I mean, getting attacked in a deck like this isn't fun, and so, prioritizing getting a goons and getting that goons in play every turn, if you can,
right,
is still important, but I'm going to get that 1 goons, and then I'm going to build a deck that's just going to continue to grow and grow. And so I'm going to end up with these turns with maybe 3, maybe 4 goons in play, and I'm not going to be using all of those buys, because if I buy copper, then that's going to help, that's going to do the opposite of help. That's going to hurt my chances of playing even more goons in a turn.
Yeah, now that's actually a really interesting point. Now, I think that at this point we need to take a step back and think about what your win condition is on a Goons board. And I think that identifying that is going to come down to a little bit about looking at these characteristics of how many goons you can play on the board.
Yeah, we've said throughout this entire episode, it's playing the goons that wins you the game.
Yes.
And it's not, we're shifting the focus away from getting the VP tokens from buying 1 billion coppers with your goons.
Right.
That's not it. It's playing the goons.
Right, exactly. And if you are playing, again, a single gain goons board, there's a really good...
What is a single game?
A single goons play board.
Oh, okay.
Like a one where you can only play 1 goons a turn. It's pretty likely that you're going to pile provinces. Not necessarily. It could end on a 3 pile because goons has multi-gain. But it's fairly likely that provinces are going to pile, so your win condition involves the VP chips and the provinces. But if you are playing a game where you can get multiple goons in play, it's really unlikely the game is going to end any other way but piles, just because goons both incentivizes you to get a bunch of cards in your turn, and also it makes that possible. So your win condition at that point is to get an insurmountable point lead before your opponent is able to catch up, so that you can end the game with a point lead before your opponent can catch up. And a lot of the time that means ending the game on your turn, but sometimes it just means getting that point lead so that they can't catch up on the turn that they have and then ending it next turn. And why am I bringing this up? Why am I going into this? Basically, when is it okay to spend your buys on things that get you points but don't make your deck better? Well, it's when it gets you that insurmountable point lead. It's when, if you have 5 goons in play and you're not probably going to get it again, and you just need to get the coppers so that you're going to effectively win the game that turn, then I can kind of see a case for it, but then and only then.
Yeah, and that's pretty narrow as well. I mean, that if my opponent's also going for that same goons, I don't think that's going to be my win condition unless I'm ending the game right then.
Right.
If my opponent's going for something else, they're trying to go for provinces, then yeah, this is definitely... That's where that happens, for sure.
Yeah, that's certainly a consideration.
Yeah.
I mean, when you're looking at your multiple gains and scoring those points, it's really important to keep your endgame position in mind, too, because Goons does have a lot of pile control, so bear in mind that, you may need to score some panic points. Not necessarily panicking, but you need to get some points just so that your opponent doesn't start his turn with a lead or close enough to a lead that he could empty piles on you. So at that point, sometimes it's okay to be using your extra gains to just get points and not make your deck better too.
Sure. I'm trying to think of other situations where I'm a little happier to be buying coppers or bad cards for my deck just to get the Goons points.
Watchtower.
Yep, I was about to say Watchtower.
Oh, were you?
Yeah.
Nice.
With Watchtower, this is super great. You get to buy the things, the coppers or the curses, and you get the VP tokens. But then you can reroll Watchtower and trash it. You don't have to put it in your deck, but you still get the VP tokens because you bought it.
It's
super hot.
It's a really stylish way to win the game if you do that with the curse pile at the end of the game. Like, just end of the game, just gain and trash the curse pile on your turn. That's really awesome.
I mean, stylish is definitely a thing that is, for sure.
Yeah.
I would also say, if you don't think you're ever going to draw those coppers, obviously get them for the points.
Yeah, definitely.
But if you think you're going to maybe draw them one time, it's really difficult for me to say that it's a good idea to get those coppers.
Yeah, so you think about how many points you're getting from the copper. Maybe it's like 2 or 3 if you have 2 or 3 goons in play. Whereas, like, playing an extra goons on your turn, we talked about how those scaling up gets you so many points. Like, I think if you get a 4th goons in play over your 3rd, that takes you from 12 minimum points to 20.
20, yeah.
Yeah, so, like, is gaining the copper that you're going to draw worth 3 points now if it costs you 8 points later because you didn't play goons?
Definitely not.
Right.
Because also your deck is better by that point, too.
Right. It was a rhetorical question, but yes, definitely not.
Definitely not.
Yeah.
I see a lot of people buy coppers for 1 VP token with a goons out, and they're going to shuffle before the game is over.
Yeah.
Don't do that. Don't buy an estate either. Like, don't buy this card that's bad for your deck for, like, 1 VP token.
Yeah,
like 1 VP token isn't going to be that difference between, oh, I'm getting an insurmountable point lead, or I'm not. Or I need to score this point absolutely right now, or else my opponent can win on their next turn. Like, that's just not a thing that happens.
Right. So the only time that it is advisable to spend your buys on cards that are not making your deck better, and in fact that are even making it worse, to get goons points is A, it actually is either winning you or effectively winning you the game. Rare. Or B, you really need to get the points because your opponent has the ability to end the game on a win if you don't.
Yeah.
Otherwise, don't do it.
Please.
Yeah.
Please. Don't do it.
Yes.
So,
we love you. We just want what's best for you.
we care, okay? We care a lot here on Making Luck, a caring podcast.
A caring podcast.
A pairing podcast.
Yeah. You just wanted something to edit out.
Yeah. So, when is Goons less good? When is it not this amazeballs thing?
Man, like, there are so few things that make it less good.
So I'm thinking a lot of things have to be going right for this other deck that doesn't have Goons in it. So I'm thinking it needs to be able to end the game. Otherwise, Goons can just get an almost arbitrary number of VP tokens.
Yeah, Goons has a pretty much infinite point ceiling.
Yeah. And so it has to be able to end the game. It has to be able to do it fast before Goons can outscore whatever points that strategy scores, right?
Right.
And it also has to, for some reason, not want Goons in the deck for whatever reason, which is the part that really gets me.
Yeah, that's actually the weird part of this. The reason that Goons is so rarely not the answer is because all of these awesome support conditions you're talking about sound really great for Goons.
And you also, like, you still want to attack them, right? To slow them down. And so Goons does that. So, like, I'm thinking maybe King's Court Bridge or King's Court Governor Megaturn kind of thing.
Yeah, but man, even like that...
Like, you still probably put a Goons in that deck, right?
Yeah, I mean, you still probably put multiple Goons in that deck, because, like, King's Court Governor, I mean, I know that's really fast by itself, but, man, you could... It's really easy for me to think about using those draw and those resources to gain and play a bunch of Goons, too.
Sure. I mean, you can empty provinces super fast. But if I'm playing King's Court on Governor and drawing cards with it, I at least want to discard down to 3. I don't want to give them a 10-card hand to start with.
There's
when I can Goons them, right?
There's some pretty amazing synergy there where you can make them draw... Well, you can get an awesome benefit that causes them to draw and then make them discard the cards.
Yeah, so, like, it's really not that many cases where this is going to be ignorable or not playing an important role in the kingdom. And I think knowing why, and that's why we kind of outlined, like, hey, the VP tokens are important here, the attacks are important here. That's why we did that, so you know what kind of thing you're looking for.
Well, yeah, and the other purpose of that is, too, because, like, again, we said, even though Goons is always really good, like, pretty much without fail, the way that you play it and the things that you prioritize about it are different. So, you know, like, it's important to know how to play your Goons.
Yeah. You have at least one action remaining.
Yes.
And then you place it on the table from your hand, and you say, Goons. And then you wait for them to discard down to 3 if they haven't done that already.
Right, and that's the main...
And then you get your crowbar out and...
Smack them in the knees.
Yeah, well, first you look around for security cameras.
Yeah, and then you smack them in the knees.
See? This guy clearly doesn't have as much experience with this as I do.
Assault, yeah. So, the other question I think that an episode of Making Luck on Goons wants to answer is, like, the timing of buying your goons. Like, we've talked about what the deck ends up looking like that you're trying to build, but like figuring out when to go for goons, when to buy your first one, and how many, I think is a non-trivial question. Because, like, should you buy goons the first time you're able to? And if you're asking me that question, I'm assuming you're considering something else. Like there's some other card, and if there is a card that maybe can help your deck control out that is also at the $5 to $6 price point, you might be choosing between that and a Goons. So it's important to be thinking about how far ahead does getting that single Goons actually put you. And most of that comes down to how good the discard attack is and how much that slows your opponent down.
That's a big deal. Like, if it's hard to hit 6 when you're getting Goons attacked.
Yeah.
So a lot of times you can just win games by getting that first Goons, continuing to play it, and your opponent's going to have a lot tougher time hitting 6. Meanwhile, you are building a deck that is good at playing a Goons. And once it's good at playing a Goons,
it's probably good at playing more than one.
Soon it'll be playing more than one Goons.
Yeah.
And then you'll be winning the game.
But that actually comes back to, again, what Adam said earlier about how that first Goons that you put in the deck has a lot of value, because the first Goons you play on your turn, it both gives you the Goons effect, which is great, and it also attacks your opponent, also great. But subsequent Goons, even though they give you more points, in terms of building the deck, might give you a little bit less value. So we think about, what do you do the first time you hit 6? And you've got maybe, like, you're choosing between, like, Goons or pulling this out of thin air upgrade. And you remember that, again, the goal is to be playing as many Goons as possible throughout the course of the game. That doesn't necessarily mean buying the Goons ASAP and buying them every chance you get. A lot of the time, you are better served by investing in the deck control resources, like the things that will draw you and help you play your Goons more, rather than just getting another copy of the Goons. And that comes down to the kind of deck you're building.
Yeah, I think if I have 0 upgrades and I magically hit 6 before my first 5, I'm looking at Goons versus upgrade, that's a really tough call. It depends on a lot of other stuff, right?
Yeah.
If that attack is really going to crap all over my opponent, then yeah, I'm probably getting that Goons. And if it's not going to crap all over my opponent, then give me that upgrade. Yeah,
and, like, the idea is that, like, can the Goons stop them from even hitting 5 to get an upgrade themselves? If the deck control resources and the Goons are not really competing with each other, you probably go back to the old tried and true method that even though Goons wins you the game, remember, it doesn't change the fact that first you get control of your deck, then you make the deck do good stuff, then you win the game with your deck. It happens in that order, and Goons doesn't really change that.
Yeah.
Even though it's a very powerful card.
Even though you're not going to be spending all of your money on a given turn, which just seems like a really weak play.
Yeah, no, if you don't spend all your money every turn,
you're just wasting it.
You basically take debt.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the same thing.
It's like mana burn in Magic.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. So a couple other tidbits. Feel like it wouldn't be right if we didn't go over this stuff. Just some really strong synergies and gotchas.
Sure.
So we talked about Watchtower. Goons and Watchtower is really great.
Yeah.
Watchtower is just basically a way to convert those extra buys to points. It's kind of like a VP card in that sense.
Yeah.
It just allows you to score more points. And points are really good for winning. So that.
They help.
So the Throne Room and Throne Room Family, it doubles the money in the buy that the Goons gives you. But it does not increase the number of VP tokens that you get from Goons.
Yeah.
That's because it has that while this is in play wording. I remember the first time I King's Court the Goons and I started taking way too many VP tokens.
We all remember that.
That was cheating.
Yeah.
I think that probably the jelly to the Goons peanut butter, if you will, is City and Lost City.
Sure.
Like, City, City wants something that can empty piles, which Goons does, and then +2 cards, +2 actions is a really great effect for any terminal payload card, and Goons is a great example of something like that.
Yeah, those are some really powerful support pieces for Goons, definitely. Yeah. And then you could put City Quarter in that camp too, I think.
Yeah, any card with City in it?
Any card with the word City in it, yeah.
City Goons.
City Goons.
A lexicographic synergy.
Yeah.
And also, Goons has really good synergy with like really cheap cards that you don't mind spamming, so cantrips mostly.
Yeah.
It allows you to just spend your buys on things that are not harmful for your deck, but you can still score points with them.
Yeah. Yeah, we're looking at like Patrician and Pearl Diver, totally.
Yeah.
I'll take those for... We talked about, you don't take an estate just to get the points, but you do take a Pearl Diver just to get the points.
Yeah, that's pretty sweet.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe don't get 5 Pearl Divers if you could put a better card in your deck.
Right.
But, I mean, if I'm scoring 30 points by getting 5 Pearl Divers, yes, I would like to do that, please. Thank you.
Yeah, right. And, like, if that sets him up to maybe not end the game that turn, but end the game the next turn he gets, then the onus is on me to score 30 points before he gets a turn.
Yeah.
And
it's a lot of points, man. That's like 55 points.
Yeah, it's like that.
It's basically the same thing.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, I do like Goons. I really enjoy Goons games. I know that I kind of already said that, but just as a side note, Goons is one of those things that, again, is just so very Dominion to me, because it is just the presence of Goons on the board is already demanding that I do everything that I know how to do in Dominion, and I like that.
Everybody's favorite card is Goons.
Yep, everybody loves it. Yep. Not a single person dislikes it.
That's right. Well, you have anything else to say?
I do not, except that we do have a kingdom we're going to be playing.
Oh, hey, look at that.
And it's going to have Goons in it.
Nice.
And the cards in this kingdom are Crossroads, Pawn, Night Watchman, Marauder, Rats, Snacrifice, Horn of Plenty, Vault, Altar, Goons, of course. And we also have the shelters and the spoils out, but the shelters are replacing our starting estates. Once more for our audio-only listeners, we have Crossroads, Pwned, Night Watchman, Marauder, Rats, Sacrifice, Horn of Plenty, Vault, Altar, Goons, and our starting estates are replaced with shelters.
Yeah, so we were rolling kingdoms for Goons, and I was like, we might just take the first one we see, because Goons will be relevant.
Yeah.
And that's what we did.
Yeah, it is what we did. Well, it's also like we wanted to get one where Goons wasn't too obvious to play around or too like overly relevant, just because we wanted to still have the conversation be interesting.
Yeah.
And I think we did that, because this board is kind of tricky.
This is crunchy, man.
Because the village sucks.
Yeah, you've got Necropolis, you've got Crossroads, and you've got Sacrifice.
Well, you've got a junking attack, too.
Yeah.
Like, you could open with a Marauder. So, like, here's the weird thing. You're going to be... Again, we start out predetermined that Goons is probably going to be the point of the board. But you've got the option on a 4-3 to open with a Marauder or a Sacrifice. The Sacrifice, over the course of the game, is going to be thinning your deck, making it better for the Goons that you eventually get. And it's also going to be thinning the Ruins Marauder gives out in a productive way. Even though you'd rather be thinning other things. But if you get that, you're not getting the Marauder and junking your opponent, and the Marauder is giving you spoils, which help you buy Goons. So, man, I'm not sold one way or the other.
So I originally thought this kingdom would just be dominated by Marauder, and, you know, the draw is so terrible here. The only way to increase your hand size is Vault, and the villages are not great for that. And then Jake pointed out Sacrifice Rats.
Yeah.
And the longer I've been thinking about that, I think that might be amazing.
Yeah, so, like, I said it as a troll comment, but it's maybe not terrible.
I think it might be amazing enough that you ignore Marauder, you open Sacrifice, you get a bunch of Sacrifices, you get a Rats,
oh boy.
you get lots of Rats, and you cycle the crap through your deck, and you just play a bunch of goons. I think that might actually work.
Okay, so you're speaking my language when you're saying rats might be good.
Yeah, I think rats might be amazing.
How are you getting your first rats?
Or
how are you getting your first goons? How are you hitting goons?
So I'm gonna probably try and have like a couple of silvers in my deck. I don't know. I haven't thought about it.
Maybe you open sacrifice silver and then pick up a silver in the second shuffle.
I'm really having a tough time not opening sacrifice Nighty if I can.
I was actually going to point out Night Watchman is probably good with both the Marauder and the sacrifice.
Well, on a 4/3 it definitely is.
Oh, on a 3/4 less.
On a 3/4 it's a lot less good, and I think I'm probably getting the silver.
Yeah, on a 4/3, I think that the Night Watchman can... Okay, on a 4/3...
You have to get it, I think.
Well, do you... Like, on a 4/3, I mean, putting a silver in the deck you're talking about is really good. I mean, if I'm going for Marauder, I'm taking the Night Watchman without question, because I don't have that gimmick. Point, yeah. But on this deck that you're talking about that's just trying to play off of Rats and Sacrifice, man, that's interesting.
I think it might be amazing.
Yeah, so
it could also be completely terrible.
It could be garbage.
I don't really think it. I don't think it is.
So like,
I don't think it is.
I want to point out that even if this is completely terrible, I am not qualified to point it out because one, I'm bad at Dominion, but two, I love rats so much that if there is a chance that it might be okay, I'm gonna go for it and I'm gonna go all in. But
hashtag all in on the rats.
You might be converting me.
It's not going to be difficult to convert you to the Rats is Amazing camp.
No, it's not. But like I thought I was trolling when I said that. But
if I play Sacrifice and I trash a rat, that's basically like I just played a Lost City.
It's the same thing. And
like I just got done saying how that's really good with goons.
Okay.
This doesn't sound insane to me.
This might be okay.
I'm kind of in.
Okay, let's assume it's terrible and talk about what else is around.
Tears and sadness and crying.
Yeah, so there's that stuff. The Crossroads is pretty bad because you don't have your starting estates, among other things.
You probably still have to get one if you're hurting for terminal space.
Oh yeah, you probably get one.
Because I assumed that this sacrifice thing is bad.
Yeah, so we're gonna assume that the sacrifice thing is bad and talk about the other things that are available in the kingdom. So I think that you...
I think this is
I
one
think
of
you
those
take
games.
the Sacrifice over the Marauder to begin with. Still.
It's close. I think I'd get the Marauder than the Sacrifice. I think it's close, and I'm not sure about it.
Yeah.
In fact, I halfway said that just to disagree with you.
Well,
to be totally honest.
I think I'm going 2 Sacrifices, honestly.
Well, okay, obviously you're going to get more than 1 Sacrifice because Marauder sucks and you want to play Goons.
Right.
Marauder sucks to have played on you, that's what I mean.
Yeah, Marauder sucks to have played on you. I think you get... Yeah, I think I am buying Sacrifice, and then if I can get the Night Watchman on turn 2, I do that. If not, I get the silver every time I hit 3, pretty much. And then Sacrifice Marauder is what I'm looking at.
Sure. This is just which one you open with. I think we end up wanting kind of the same deck.
Yeah. Do you get a Horn of Plenty?
No. Horn of Plenty's terrible here.
Probably.
Horn of Plenty needs draw in order to be good. I want to be...
I mean, you're probably right.
Sixers and maybe Vault. Like, the draw is just so weak here. I don't see Horn being any good.
Yeah, okay. In the early game, the Horn of Plenty is pretty bad.
I think it's always bad.
Well, and then by the late game, the card wouldn't be bad, but it's competing with Goons at the same-ish price point. So, yeah, it's pretty bad.
For sure.
Do you pick up an Altar over your first Goons?
I certainly don't think so. I think the discard attack is super important, and I think most of your thinning is going to be done with Sacrifice. Like, what do I want to gain with Altar? Pawn?
That's true, too. No, I mean, you want to be buying Pawn with Goons. Yeah. So I agree with that the Altar doesn't come into play. You just...
I don't think it's good here at all.
So there's basically 2 things we're talking about. There's the Rats gimmick that Adam advocated for, and that I am... Man.
I'm still on board, man.
I'm looking at it sideways, but I might be in. And then there's trying to cobble together something with the bleeding remains of the rest of the kingdom if the Rats thing turns out to be bad.
Rats is always amazing. Don't be silly.
Good old Toby.
Good old Toby.
Yeah, so let us know what you think about this kingdom and how would you play it out. Would you open with the Night Watchman if you get a 3 on turn 2? And if not, or what would you do on a 5-2, actually?
Cry.
Cry?
I would cry salty tears. I'd
probably
get a sacrifice.
Sacrifice Crossroads or sacrifice Pawn?
Sacrifice and manly tears.
You're not getting the Crossroads?
I don't know. Crossroads is not a good card for the deck.
You're taking the
it's
pawn
either pawn
over
or nothing. And yeah, the pawn's better than nothing. So yeah, I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna be really sad.
Yeah, you don't really. I guess you don't really need the terminal space.
Or if I decided I wanted the Marauder, I would get the Marauder because sacrifice was awful, but I don't think it is.
Sure. Okay.
But I'm not getting a vault. I'm not getting a Horn Plenty. I'm not doing that. I'm just gonna cry and get a worse card than a 3 cost.
Yeah. You could open with a Duchy and trash your Hovel. Wait, no, you're not opening with 5 coppers.
No, you got to open estate, trash the Hovel, because then you can get those VP tokens when you trash the estate to the sacrifice.
Yeah.
Just make sure you don't feed that to Toby. Toby likes hovels. Toby doesn't like estates. Those VP tokens.
Yeah.
It's real.
Yeah. All right, so let us know what you think.
Leave a comment. You can hit up adamhorton.com, go to the forums there, or hop onto the Discord server and talk about it there. Or pretty much all our contact information is on that blog page as well. You can reach out to us any way you can possibly think of. We want to talk to you about this kingdom, about the podcast, about future episodes of the podcast. What do you like to see? Or what do you think we did well? All of that stuff. We want to hear from you.
Yep.
And yeah, thanks for listening.
Ditto.
Hopefully we'll be back next week unless my wife goes into labor.
Wife in labor.
Wife in labor.
Oh, is that here now?
I've been just trying to think of how you draw a dead exorcist with a militia. And I was thinking, like, maybe your opponent does it by playing caravan guards, but that doesn't work.
I think your opponent played a enchantress on you, and then you played the militia.
Okay.
And you drew the exorcist, but they also have a Haunted Woods out, so you can't play the exorcist because once you buy something, you're going to top up the exorcist.
You did it!
We did it!
That was it! That was good. That high five was really bad. You went for the thumb grab, and I went for the...
It's kind of weird. It connected at the fingertips.
Yeah. It was, I mean, it was really weird. It was pretty bad. So
just take our word for that.
Yeah. Welcome to Making Luck, a really bad high five podcast.